Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I will be reviewing chapter 1155 of One Piece. And this one is titled... I've forgotten already. This one is titled The Rocks Pirates. And before I get going, thank you to everyone who kind of sticks around with my videos despite my incredibly inconsistent upload schedule. So I'll try and become more consistent, I swear. You know, I'm like 3 weeks behind or something. But let's dive in. We open with a cover. It's not Ogre Child Yamato's Golden Harvest this time. It's amazingly a full color spread and it looks amazing. Everyone's having a good old time. They seem to be high up in the rooftops of some location, right? It doesn't. There's no description of what it's about. But everyone except Usopp seems to be having a great time. Luffy's just kind of swinging off something by the looks of things, eating meat, and Usopp's just clinging on for dear life. Oh dear, I don't think there's any like secret characters in here though. I think like that yellow bird might be Karoo from Alabasta, but I'm not really sure. But yeah, you know, you got Robin chilling with Chopper. You've got Frankie in a hot air balloon. Got Jinbei and Nami hanging out, and Brook playing the violin. Zoro just chilling there next to Sanji. It's cool. It looks like they're in their like Wano gear, doesn't it? I think it's new gear. But hey, anyway, cool. I love a full color spread from time to time. So we're carrying on with the Rocks Pirates Loki backstory. Elbaf backstory, whatever. And this is clearly Loki's introduction to Rocks, where he's going to start his fascination with the Rocks Pirates, his obsession. And, you know, they're finding out that Loki is Harold's kid. Someone's saying, haha, or you're adorable. I assume that's Stussy. Because I don't think he's got Big Mom and, like, Kaido, and I think... Well, then I don't think they're in there, but I think Whitebeard's in the crew, isn't he? But then Rocks gives him this plan of, you know, go back home and send a message to Harold that Loki's been injured, like to get him to come back. But Loki's just rejecting him, just outright, just telling him to basically piss off. But as Loki keeps insulting Zebek and tells him to bugger off, basically, we get Zebek just getting a sword attack ready, and even the narrator's chiming in and saying Rocks is, well, they keep calling him Rocks. I want to call him Zebek, I don't know. But Rocks' sword attacks were famous for blasting everything inside like a gigantic hammer or cannonball, and he just smacks Loki. And then we just see at the bottom he's just laughing and saying, yeah, you're actually injured now. And narrator saying this madman had crossed Harold's path. So he didn't need to just lie about wounding Loki. He could just go out and do it. But anyway, so we change scenes in the next page, and we're at the Reverie. We're at Marijois. And there's an alert of 5 kings have been attacked and captured by a large man dressed in black. And because this is Rock's backstory, it's obviously him. But as we see, Imu doesn't give a shit about kings. Because he sees himself as way above them. But more interestingly, at the bottom here, holy shit, that's Gunko in different attire. Guess this predates her joining the Holy Knights and looking in some sort of maiden attire or something. Is she like a servant to Imu? I don't know. But we've also got Rocks just appearing before Imu. And that's just insane. He confronted Imu. It's also interesting getting, like, a different angled shot of Imu. Like, we know that's his stupid little crown there, but is that, like, a head, like, veil sort of thing? Or is it his hair? But, anyway, it's revealed that, that Rocks worships Davy Jones. When I first read this, I was like, what the hell do they mean by that? Is Davy Jones an actual person? Is he mythological? You know, we've heard of the Davy back fights, but surely not, I thought. But anyway, he can't do anything, but he imparts a warning to Imu. To Imu, of all people, I will be back right here. So he threatened to return. I don't think based on the story, he ever did return, but he planned to, I guess. But obviously, as the narrator goes on to say, the word of this incident never left it never saw the light of day, because obviously no one needs to know that. No one's meant to know about Imu. So yeah. But they also tell the tale of another man who infiltrated the Holy Land on the same day, and then we see a bunch of the nobles sort of desiring him for a slave, and the Holy Land guards, or whatever their soldiers, whatever they are meant to defend these nobles. And I wonder who this giant is. Well, it's obviously Harold, isn't it? They're clearly telling the story that we briefly heard about, that he spoke with Gaban about, and not Gaban, Shanks about, or Shanks and Gaban spoke about. Shanks and Gaban spoke about it, didn't they? So this is the story of Harold infiltrating the Holy Land, and the murderer who infiltrated at the same time was obviously Rox. But yes, we get confirmation that Harold is the other intruder, and humorously, he seems to have been set aflame here, and he seems to be getting the blame for all the actions that Rox has been undertaking. And we actually see in the bottom here that Rox and Harold actually encounter each other. So Harold's plan is to capture Rox and prove his innocence, I suppose. We all know that's probably not going to work, but let's see how it throws down. So I do love these huge panels. So we've got a huge panel of Harold and Rox clashing attacks, and it's revealed in the bottom here that their clash, the shockwave from it, just eradicated it says eradicate any sign of others for 5 kilometers around. So I don't know if that means it just killed them all, but a 5 kilometer radius of destruction from just their clash. And as we see, as their battle continues, I mean, Rox has crazy eyes, but it looks like Rox has a plan, and he instructs Harold to aim for the next town in his next blow. He spits here that Harold isn't even aware that they keep slaves in the Holy Land, so news to him. But this is going to be Rox's escape plan, and is Harold going to be complicit? But it looks here that Rox is clinging on to Harold and wants to meet up with him after they've escaped the sacred land Marijoa. And Harold doesn't want anything to do with him because he's a criminal, and just leaps off some cliff edge or something, or off the castle edge or something, and just shocks Rox with him. But we get the narrator saying the Navy admiral that Rox had struck down perished of his wounds. That we knew he died, but we get his wanted poster, and unfortunately we don't see the bounty, but assumedly it's going to be massive considering what he did. And we see that after he escaped the Holy Land, he's just continued his pirating nonsense, being an absolute menace to the world government by attacking the gate, destroying the gate of justice, and he's described as attacking a ship laden with heavenly tribute to sacred Marijoa. So honestly, he's causing havoc, but he seems like he's pissing off the right people. Seems like a nice guy, to be honest. So this next bit is wild, whereas it's established here that Rox's activities were always hostile towards the government, but his first target was actually another pirate ship. And then they reveal that Rox made heavy use of the Davy back fights to pad out his crew. And after doing that for a long time, he finally arrived with his now emboldened crew in Elbath. I can't believe they are bringing back the Davy back fights. And we're not having a Davy back. It doesn't look like we're going to have a Davy back fight arc or anything, but it's funny to bring it back as a reference since it's definitely a divisive arc. And imagine if Rox was still active and doing Davy back fights when blooming Foxy was doing the Davy back fights. He wouldn't get anywhere. He'd be done. So despite Loki's thoughts earlier about Harold probably not caring about him being injured, he was very wrong, and Harold is actually quite sweet towards Loki and is happy to see that he's healthy. But at the same time, this whole plan to lure Harold back has worked, and Rox is there as well to greet Harold. And being very friendly towards him. I've been dying to see you, pal. And he invites him to join the Rox Pirates, but Harold is having none of it. And we get a big shot of the current crew members of the Rox Pirates. I'm not going to go over them because I think some of the new ones get covered in the next page or two. But, we obviously see Stussy, got Shinky, and Whitebeard. I forget the others, but I think they're the ones that get covered in the next page or two. So Rox continues arguing with Harold, but Harold is getting back in his face and saying that, Elbaf is changing. He's obviously trying to move Elbaf to a more diplomatic route. And we see Harold yelling at Shinky about how following Rox is a mistake and he'll only lead them to disaster. So you've got Rox treating Harold like a good friend, and Harold saying, you don't trust this guy. And then as I said, we do get the Rox Pirates introductions. Shinky just sort of laughs at it and says that they're all individuals and they're just part of the crew because it's a powerful crew. So we've got Shinky, Shiki. I keep saying Shiki. We've got Stussy, obviously. Her statements here is that she just wants to make a killing, I guess. She's kind of like Nami in a way. You've got gangster Don Marlon, not sure if he's related to I've forgotten his name. The one, Gang Beige or Beige or whatever. I don't know if he's related to him or if he was like the mob leader before him. But I think they're both from the West Blue, and they've got the whole gangster thing about them. But they're all establishing that they're basically individuals on a pirate crew, which is interesting. Definitely an antithesis to Luffy's dynamic. But they do, interestingly, certainly Don Marlon is the first one to bring it up. Brings up the Fuller-led Island, or aka Pirate Island. That they apparently send their prisoners out there. Very British thing to do. We sent all our prisoners out to Australia. So anyway, we get introduced to the remaining 3 members of the Rox Pirates. We already knew about Edward Newgate, aka Whitebeard, but there's also Pirate Guru Wang Ji, future Commodore of Pirate Island. I don't know if I should know these people. I probably should. I'd probably drop the ball somewhere. And we've got Pirate Smuggler Gansui. And they're constantly talking about how Pirate Island, Fuller-led, whatever, was meant to be some sort of desolate place where they just sent their prisoners and pirates and whatever off to die. But it turns out there, according to this Gansui guy, there was a gold lode under the island, which made everyone who got sent there basically stupidly wealthy, much to the government's annoyance. And bloody hell, this is the wordiest One Piece chapter has been in a while. But Rox basically, TLDR, plots to take over Pirate Island and rule it as a sort of paradise for pirates and rub it in the government's face. So interestingly, we see Rox's ambition is to bring the Navy and the Holy Land to its knees and become king of the world. And we see here that Loki has a shocked expression. It's clearly reached him. And Harold scoffs at this, saying, "You're making an enemy out of the entire world. It's too much to handle." But Rox is unfazed and believes that if he and Harold team up, they will be unstoppable. So interestingly Loki is crying and smiling after a life of misery and rejection. He has seen, as the narrator puts it, and the next thing Loki knew, his outlook on life had been saved. He now has a positive outlook on life thanks to Rox. And we skip ahead actually at the end 4 years, and the narrator sort of finishes us off for this chapter saying 4 years later, after Harold ignored repeated invitations, Rox finally carried out his plan. The formidable lineup that joined him caused the world to quake with terror. So the Rox pirates are out causing mayhem. All in all, really solid chapter, and it's hilarious that they brought back a reference to the Davy pack fights of all things. But it's always great to see a bit of Rock's backstory, and we know he had these great ambitions to become essentially king of the world, and these were not fulfilled because we know his story ends at the God Valley incident. That, who knows, maybe we'll see the God Valley incident and see what that's all about. What actually happened, what was with the whole team up with Roger and Garp and etc. But until then, I better get on and do the next chapter, so I'm ready for the next chapter tomorrow. As always, good though, thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.